All right, here we are with Preaching Young Podcast, episode 21. I'm pumped, man. 21 episodes we made it. That means 21 weeks we've been doing this podcast. I mean, 21 weeks. People have been saying we couldn't get past episode 4, but we got here. Isn't that amazing?
Here we are,
episode 21. And I'm not even going to announce my name because y'all should know it by now.
Amen to that one.
Wow.
But if you don't know, my name's David Carter,
Pastor
Trace Our Baptist Church. I just wanted to make sure I get that out there.
But
listen.
Yeah, no, because you wouldn't introduce us.
I don't care.
My
This
name's
is Andrew Bishop.
Andrew Bishop.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
We'll get to that later in the podcast.
All right. Listen, how's your week been?
You know, it's been really, really good. It's been like an easy going week, I feel like.
Oh, has it been?
Yeah.
I feel like you've been hanging out with friends all week.
I have. A lot of my friends are getting married, so we've just been doing a lot of wedding festivities. I'm a maid of honor,
Sounds
so
like terrible stuff.
gotta be there. I love it. I'm actually loving it. Not gonna lie.
Sounds horrible.
What about you guys? What'd you do
Andy,
this
where you
week?
been?
I worked this week. That's it. That's all I did.
I feel like Abram
when I
was
work,
on it
when I
this
work,
week.
I don't really like.
I wish.
I don't do
didn't
anything
hear
fun
from you
when I work.
at all.
I've been stressed.
Okay, that's why.
I've been stressed. I've been working too, really.
Technically,
I believe it. I believe it.
It's been very stressful.
We're always working.
People are getting. I think I mentioned this last week, but it seems like people are really getting. They're hitting mental breakdowns. Yeah, that's all there is.
We're
to it.
definitely getting to that point.
People
we're
really-
talking. What is it? August? We're talking almost.
Yeah.
Let's say 6 months, right?
We found out that our school systems are going to be pushing back
March.
due to the governor to another month. People are at their break. They're at their breaking point, and they're hurting. I don't know how to describe it, but every time I call somebody or talk to somebody or have lunch with somebody this week, it was really, you could just tell that people are mentally not doing very good. And my biggest advice, right, because this is really impacting people, I think the biggest thing is social media. I think social media, the news, I think those things are really just getting to people, and they're just, it's information overload. Things are changing all the time. Things are not staying the same. It's insane.
Well, you get on social media, say Facebook, for instance,
Yeah.
and you can see from one end of the spectrum, you can see presidential politics because it's an election year. You can see stuff going on with your local government, with your school, or stuff that's happening in your area.
Yeah.
And then you see church stuff, you see mask stuff, you see more coronavirus stuff. It's
Well, and that's the other thing too. You got most of these churches are not opening back up. They have all these restrictions in their churches. You have to wear a mask. You have to do this. You have to do that. Do this. And we have went to the approach of people already know what the mandates are and the recommendations. So it makes no sense for us to keep pushing that on people.
Right.
We're just going to continue to promote church like we normally do. Hey, come this Sunday. We're here. We're having church here, Sunday school here, and we want you to be there. And that's it. If you can't be there, no big deal. Whatever. It's
Can I get
online.
this off my chest? Can I just get this off my chest?
Disclaimer. We do not know what she's going to say. She was up late last night and she's in an interesting mood today.
Go ahead.
It aggravates me so much that churches still are not open. Sorry, you might not feel the same way, but
No,
I
we
feel like
do
this
feel
is
the
the
same way. Say
time
it.
that churches should be stepping up, because there are people that are at their breaking points in their lives, and they're going to turn to different things if the church doors are not open. It just drives me insane.
Amen.
What greater time for the church to be the church?
Exactly.
Right? People, this is when the church should step up and say, all right.
Well, this is what we always say the church is, to be there for the community, be the help and the support and the light and the hope in the community. And then when something like this happens, we're nowhere to be found.
I made a post this week about teachers and how, they have a lot of pressure on them and we need to support them and encourage them and
Get a lot of positive feedback on that post
Yeah, I
too.
saw that.
except for one.
A lot of commenting.
Oh, really? Let's hear it. I didn't hear that.
At the very end of my post, I put on there, if you want your kids to socialize, because everybody's like, we need our kids in school so they can socialize. I said at the very end of the post, if you want your kids to socialize, take them to church.
Amen.
Lady gets on there, I agree with everything you said, but the church part.
Oh my God.
Okay, why? We're not allowed to even have Sunday school. So how can they socialize in church if we can't have Sunday school? So, well, number one, who in the world said you can't have Sunday school?
Yeah.
There's nothing anywhere that said you can't have Sunday school.
Yep.
I know most of these churches that are in this area, I can promise you, none of them are jam-packed for Sunday school. I promise you. right? Their Sunday school numbers are down. And here's the thing, if you're a church or a church leader, and you got me excited, Brittany, I'm really pumped now.
Sorry.
If you're a church leader or a part of a church, if you are struggling with a lot of people in your Sunday school, then you have to use your brain and get creative so we can make sure that we have people here. You got to get creative, right? Do something.
Split your
physically
class.
do something. Split your class. Have half them outside. Do anything you could physically possibly do. Because here's what they're doing. They're just saying, it's too much for me to think about on how to be creative and come up with a different way to have Sunday school. So we're just not going to have it.
Right.
Now, I know most of these Sunday schools, and I know their numbers, and I know most of them aren't even having that many people attend their Sunday school anyway.
Right.
With COVID, they're probably going to have even less. So open up your Sunday schools. Open up your Sunday nights.
And we've talked about this on the podcast before, but
And I also...
in ministry, sorry, I got
Go ahead.
In ministry, it's like to be effective in ministry, you always have to be looking for creative, new, innovative ways to reach people because it doesn't. I mean, I've heard it before. I was just talking to some guy this week about it. Opening up your church doors and just expecting people to show up doesn't work anymore. So ministry itself is literally about just constantly coming up with creative ways to do it.
The American church is not the church in the Bible. We think that church and we're supposed to do it at certain times on Sunday. We have a Sunday morning, Sunday night, or Wednesday night, or blah blah. None of that is what is biblical. It doesn't say it's for us to do that stuff. So we have to be able to understand that there's going to be adjusting in life. Doesn't mean we have to look like the world to adjust. I'm just saying we can make creative things and decisions. But here's the thing. She also was. I think her point was. Here's the thing that bothered me more about her point, right? Because I wasn't talking about Sunday school.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't bring your kid to Sunday school. I don't care. Bring them to church.
Yes.
If you want to change the world, guess what you need to do? Share the gospel. If you want to fix racism, share the gospel with somebody. If you want to fix your kids, share the gospel with them. Right?
That's great.
I don't understand it. It's not a hard concept.
No.
Get your kids to church. So they can. At our church, we do a multi-generational service, which means we don't have a nursery or a children's church. Everybody sits, worships together. We have a family worship time. And so you bring your kids to our church, and they can socialize with other kids right there at church. They can sit by them. They can do whatever. We aren't sitting there yelling at people for social distancing and all this stuff. We don't have duct tape or tape over
Pews
things.
on our
Get out of my face.
caution tape on our pews.
Yeah. Come at your own risk. But that's interesting. But anyway, it is annoying. I don't know. These churches are not helping the situation. But people are hurting. You're exactly right, Brittany. This is the time for us to be in ministry, and this is the time we should want to be in ministry. But other than that, it's just we don't because it's like we're shocked. But this
Well, that's the thing.
church history. I love church history. I've always been my entire life. I have always just been like fascinated with some guys are fascinated with basketball players, and I used to like my certain basketball players, but I used to love preachers. I used to love watching movies where preachers were on there. And guess what I always knew? I always knew this growing up. In all these scary movies where there was the bubonic plague, guess who was there? Leading those caskets down the middle of London in the middle of the night. Who was doing that? It was the pastor, it was the priest, it was the guy that was the God guy, right? He was the one that was sitting there leading all the caskets of dead people down. Right? It's all like the pastors are always there in the worst times, right? Why is that? Because we're the ones with the answers. We're the ones with the hope. We're the ones that are supposed to be there to comfort people. And we can sit there. We do weddings. We do funerals. We do everything in between. And so this is our time for us to go, yep, this is ministry, right? People are hurting. This is ministry.
But it's not. It's like, instead, it's like everybody else is leading the church right now. I feel like social media, everybody, people who don't even go to church are leading and telling these pastors what they should do. And pastors are just like, I don't mean to be rude, but they're like bowing down to what the world wants them to do.
Well,
and
it's
just
comfortable,
so
but it's
aggravating.
comfortable for them, right?
Yeah.
It's comfortable not to have to go and preach to 30 people on a Wednesday night. It's easier just to do it at your home because then you can change the time, you can work around your dinner, you can pre-record it, you can plan things, you can plan doctor's appointments and skip it, and be like, you know,
I don't want to be at church.
I don't want to be at church today, or sorry guys, I just, you know, something came up and I wasn't able to get it down, so we'll just do it tomorrow, or I'm having technical issues. Like, you can make up excuses so that you don't have to preach. And a lot of these guys are taking full advantage of that.
Yep.
And like kind of what Brittany said, if you don't believe us that the world is turning, I mean, people are looking for answers and things. Just look around. People are wanting to know. They're wanting to look to science. They're wanting to look to everything else, just to find some sort of answer for what's happening, right?
And I
But
think
we
that's
have
the
that
scariest
answer.
thing is that the churches are looking to the world instead of God
Yeah.
for what they should do and how they should handle these situations. That's the scary part.
And we're so caught up in fighting with the world about the world's viewpoints
Yeah.
that we're missing sharing the gospel.
This is my point.
You know, at the end of the day, I don't care if you're, you know, pro Black Lives Matter or Democrat, Republican. I don't care, right? I want you to hear the gospel, right?
Yeah.
I want every single person to hear the gospel. So I'm going to still have church every day. Come, don't come, I don't care. Watch online, don't watch online, don't care. I'm going to share the gospel.
With or without you.
Which leads us to another point where I'm going to talk about in the second half about how much should the church be doing during this COVID. That's great. Hang in till then, huh?
Yeah.
Nice little preview.
But before we do that, listen. Rumor has it we got an email.
We got an email. We haven't had one of these in a while. This little COVID's been throwing people's emails off, so I guess they just forgot how to email them. So.
You could catch it, probably.
You might catch it through an email. Anyway, this one's from a very valued listener of ours. His name's Gabe.
Great.
Hey, this is like his third question. I
Oh
love
yeah,
this guy.
he's very consistent in his emails. So anyway, says first of all, he would like to say he loves the podcast. It's been great recently.
Thank you, Gabe.
So
Appreciate you, brother.
he was very sad to see we took a week off.
Oh, apologies.
That was all Brittany?
That was Brittany's
And
fault.
Andrew.
Sorry, I got engaged.
Part my fault. Anyway, his question is very simple. This one. This is a very interesting question. I'm kind of excited to know your guys' thoughts and answers on this question.
Nervous.
His question is, don't get your hopes up. When are we going to get some Preaching Youngins merch?
Ooh, that's it?
That's it. That's the question.
Huh.
Well, to be honest with you, Andrew's kind of in charge of the operations of this podcast.
Let me actually say this. I've actually been looking into getting
This is a true statement.
pins.
So here,
I knew you were going to say that. I knew, but you have looked at shirts
I have
too.
looked at pins. I've looked at shirts. I don't know how we're going to distribute them. I don't
all right,
know.
here's the thing. Here's what our vision was in the very beginning was we're going to, every time we have a revival, every time I go out and do a revival at a different church, every time we have like an event, like we have Blake Whiteley would have been perfect. We set up a merchandise table with merch and posters and whatever else, pins and shirts and stuff. That way we could advertise this podcast. And there it was. It was left at the beginning of the year.
It was just a thought.
It was a good thought.
It was a really good thought. We probably could do it, Gabe. Thanks for sparking our ideas again. We should
Yeah.
probably,
Gabe, send us some
probably-
ideas on how to do that in a quick manner.
And if you want to send us an email too, you can. Brittany, what's our email?
It's preachingyoung@gmail.com.
Nice job.
Wow.
We're so hip.
Yeah, we are.
Whoa.
Merchandise is interesting. I like it. I like merchandise.
I like merch.
I like free merch though better.
Yeah.
So
Are we gonna have free merch? Or are we
No.
gonna have like?
when I was in a rock band growing up. Check us out, called Children of God. I'll try to link up a video so y'all can see it.
And every problem that I have, every time that I think, I feel much better. I trust in you as a woman embrace. I read your letter. And every problem that I have, every time that I think, I feel much better. I trust in you as a woman embrace. I read your letter.
Oh, please
Quick.
don't. Nobody wants to see it.
We were pretty big. We were a pretty big deal. But this was right before YouTube.
Isn't this where your back issues came from?
Yep.
Was this
Abram's
time in
been
your
having
life?
back issues for probably
Literally, that's all he talks about is
the past maybe month or
First
so.
off, I haven't said much lately.
That's true.
I'm back to feeling a lot better.
Thanks, Brittany. You just brought it back in his head mentally.
Yes.
And
I
now,
apologize. I
his back's gonna hurt.
apologize.
Number one. Number two, my back hurts for a lot of different reasons. One, yes, we used to rock out like crazy. I'm talking about I wasn't a headbanger.
If you search
we were a
on YouTube,
body
you'll
banger.
hear
We were
good
just
stuff.
our bodies were just going all over the place. We were doing backflips and throwing our guitars around our backs. But also, I was a basketball player here at Pelham County, and our floors are hard wooden cement, and there's no give in our Pelham County High School floors. So it was 4 years of playing basketball on those stupid Pelham County wooden floors that also did not help my back as well. You have to look up Aaron Crozier on that too.
Oh, you have to look up.
Oh, so
COG.
was your brother the one that was known the most back then?
He's the only one that uploaded videos.
Technically,
gotcha,
he's
gotcha.
See
technically
my little youngin' face?
That's you, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway,
Gosh,
we'll
he
watch.
looks like a baby.
We'll watch some of that afterwards. Listen to me.
You'll throw some links up in the.
Yeah, I'll throw some links up and stuff. We'll tie it in.
I don't know how, but
I'll figure it out.
go ahead.
But my point is, we used to have merchandise for the band. We used to travel all over the tri-state, play at different places, little places, big arenas, little arenas, theaters, really creepy theaters. We played at one theater that was so creepy, but that doesn't mean anything. Listen, point is this: we used to have merchandise, and my brothers just thought it was the coolest thing in the world to be able to give away free everything. So during the concert, they throw out shirts. And then by the end of the night, if you stuck around long enough, they would just give you handfuls of stickers, and we had a lot.
I have a college sticker.
What, did you buy it?
No, I got it for free.
Got it for free. I know, man. I don't understand. So we gave away so much stupid stuff. It cost us money because a lot of these places we didn't even get paid. We'd travel like 2 hours, get lost, finally figure out the place. We had to use a MapQuest. This was before the GPS was big, and so we.
MapQuest.
You're old.
What is that? Is that like electronic?
No, you go to MapQuest.com and then you have to put in point A and point B, and then
Oh.
it'll print it out for you.
Dang.
So you have to follow the
We've been
maps.
spoiled our whole life.
Yeah, you have youngins.
Yep.
So anyway, so we traveled there. We wouldn't get paid. Most times they wouldn't have food for us. We'd play for like 10, 15 people. Then we'd give everything away for free. So we literally lost money.
It's a good way to drive your band to the ground.
And then we would always have discussions like, guys, we got to make money somehow.
Well, there you go. You were just giving it away.
And we were just giving it away. So I'm not a big fan of merch because it seems like it always goes bad when I deal with it.
Maybe one day we'll get. If we can find a good way to distribute it, but.
Well, they need to
Kinda-
purchase it without us having
Right.
to deal with it.
Right.
The cost of it. You know, it needs to just be available for them just to be able to go on and click it, and then they can purchase it.
Maybe I'll get a
You are
clip and
you're
I'll
in,
make us some.
you're in good communication with Amazon. Maybe we can.
Well, Amazon's been upset with me lately.
Maybe we can get Amazon to print us out some shirts.
They might be able to.
Print to order. It's probably the way to go. Print to order. Anyway, go ahead.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate the question.
question.
We'll try to figure out something. Let us know what kind of merchandise you'd like to see, though.
Yeah.
'Cause that would be pretty
I'd
cool.
like some ideas.
That's number one. Number two, did y'all see the big news this week? New vice president nominee was announced. Kamala Harris.
Kamala.
Kamala.
As in you're saying like a comma, like a punctuation mark.
I think that's wrong.
It's correct.
It's Kamala.
No, it's correct.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala.
Dang.
Okay. Believe who? The white guy or the black guy? It's Kamala. Kamala Harris. Got them quiet real quick. Here's the thing about Kamala, because I want to talk about what does that mean
You're
for.
said it's wrong the entire podcast.
What does that mean for the church? Is my first question. Number two, when she was sworn in as Congress, she was sworn in as an Indian American. She's now going to be a black vice president. Now, as somebody that's biracial, okay, when I see that, it drives me up the wall,
Yeah.
right? Because I really do hate the race card, right? I hate it.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, all right, I'll talk about this story. We were at a church. I won't say the name of that church, but the very first speaking engagement that I got, right? I was telling them I want to be a preacher. I want to preach. Let me preach. Let me preach. Let me preach. They're like, all right, Aiden, we're going to give you an opportunity to preach. We want you to preach to our college students. I said, perfect. I love college students. I'll preach to them. They're young. I can relate to them. I know what they're going through because I was a college student and I flunked out. And I know exactly the pressures that they're feeling. I know it. I can talk to them. I can do this. I have my associate's degree. I can do it. I can talk to them. I know college students. And I get up there and I'm getting ready to, I'm pumped. I'm like, let's do this. He's like, oh, but here's what I want you to talk about, Abram. I want you to talk about being black. I said, but I'm not black. I'm biracial. I'm mixed. He said, I know, but I want you to talk about the struggles of being a black man in Falmouth. I said, I didn't have too many struggles. The struggles were dealt with at the time, and we moved on. You know what I'm saying? So what did I have to do? I had to go and talk to these college students about my blackness.
I'd like it.
Y'all didn't go? Brittany was there. Were you there? You went.
Where was this?
This would have been
Upper room.
Would have been
Oh, I do remember that.
Oh,
I don't
Facebook
remember
Live.
I
anything
think I
you
had
said.
to work. I think I had to work. Apologize.
Thanks, Britt.
You're
She doesn't
welcome.
remember.
I
Does that make you
apologize.
feel any better?
That was like 2 years
Well, it's
ago.
annoying because I'm sitting there going,
That's crazy. I didn't know that was the reason why.
yeah,
Jeez.
it's annoying.
Yeah, it would have been kind of bad.
So it was, but that's the kind of stuff that just, you got to get the token black guy because of whatever. But race has never been an issue for me because I've always been a child of God,
Yeah.
and that's what I've always
Amen.
just lived by.
Look
My
at
parents
that.
taught us
Look
that
at
from
that.
the very beginning. They have though, and it's interesting.
Was that a play on words a little bit? Child of God, because your band was
So,
Children of God.
oh.
Which actually, here's the thing. So we were, our band was called Children of God, COG for short.
I think I have a pin.
Most people were,
Also got that.
a lot of people thought we were associated with the Church of God because it was COG. They thought we were associated with the Church of God, which we weren't. The other group of people, like we went, Ichthus Festival was it was like a Christian Woodstock festival that was huge in Kentucky for a long time. They wouldn't let us come to the festival because in the 90s they're now called the Family of God, but they used to be called the Children of God. It's a cult.
Really?
Yeah, and so
Oh
they
my
actually came.
gosh.
They actually were invited in the '90s to Ichthus and really ruined the whole festival one weekend. And so they don't let. They thought we may be associated with that.
That's interesting.
So our name really screwed us on a lot of that
Yes, it
stuff.
did.
We probably would have been more famous if we would have just changed the name. Because we were the Jonas Brothers before the Jonas Brothers were there. Me and my brothers.
Kinda.
So we should have just went with Croziers and left it at that. But
Crozier
my
Brothers.
brothers are very deep in their. They try to be deep. No, I'll just leave it at that. They try to be deep in their thinking.
Oh,
So
that's funny.
they want there to be a deep meaning behind everything. You know.
It's a good story.
So because we disagreed about should it be the Croziers or Croziers,
Yeah.
right? The Croziers or Croziers.
The Croziers or Croziers?
I said it's the Croziers. We're the
Wait,
Croziers.
You're the
okay,
Croziers.
getting
You
off
have to be
topic,
the
what was your question about Camila?
Kamala.
No, I just can't. She
It's
can't be
Kamala.
the president or vice president. She just can't.
Well, that's
I can't say the name.
sort of
so-
racist, but because you can't say the name.
What's her last name?
Kamala
Harris.
Oh, that's easy. I'll
Biden
say
Harris.
that Harris.
So what does that mean for the church with her as the new VP candidate?
Wow. Well,
I'll tell you what I saw this.
go ahead. Let's see where you're gonna go with this, and then I'll.
This was in a news
Comment
article.
after.
This was in a news article, and it was a. They were saying it as a positive thing. This is in the history of politics. This is the most pro-abortion
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
ticket in all of politics.
Well, as far as the church goes, then that's a scary thing, because here soon, I actually just watched a video on it this week because this has been the topic of the conversation of the
Yeah.
week. It's been
Big
this
time.
vice president, nomination or whatever it is. I don't know what the word they call it, but anyway, for the church, I guess this is not. It's a terrible thing for the church because I was listening to one thing she wanted to do, and that was to, as far as abortion goes, she wanted to eliminate any policy that would not allow
Someone to get
people
abortion.
to get abortions.
Yeah, women's health.
So that's what they call it, women's health. So, as far as that goes, I think we have one here in Kentucky, but who knows how many
Two.
more? We have two now.
Yeah.
Who knows how many more we would have to do? Who knows if churches would have to be, forced to be, the
That's-
possibilities are endless. The church could
That's the
easily be
scariest
tied
part.
into it,
That's the
and
scariest part.
I
Right.
don't know.
This is what I'm going to say.
Gay marriage.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah,
I also
that
saw
too.
something. I did see that she is for
Well,
men that are men playing women's sports.
yeah. Joe Biden just a month ago said that all Muslim religion should be taught in the school.
Yeah, no.
Right. We can't even pray in school.
But we
Yeah.
have to teach the Muslim.
This is the nominee for president wants Muslim religion.
This is the issue with politics that I have. Me being a Christian, that's who I am. So what God says is right, that's what I follow. It's not, oh, well, I feel this way. No. If you're a Christian, it's what God says. So why vote people in that do not share the same beliefs that God has and that? Politics is not godly, I don't think. Am I wrong on that?
Render unto Caesar what is
But-
Caesar's.
But as a Christian, when you're voting people in places and they're making these policies, these rules that are ungodly, that's
That affects the church.
Yeah, that affects the
Directly
church.
affects the church.
That is when Christians have to stand up. I don't know Harris or
Kamala.
whatever, Miss Harris. I don't know Mr. Biden. I don't know President Trump. But I will say, I'm going to vote what God says is right. I'm going to vote every single time. God says, "Shall not kill." You shall not kill. Guess what? Now, whatever. I'm not going to kill. And guess what's killing people? Abortion. You want to look at a death rate? Look at abortion, not COVID. Sorry, I'm done.
So what's that movie,
Unplanned.
Unplanned? So
Great
It's a good
movie.
movie, yeah.
encourage people to watch that.
Very
You should
sad.
watch it, it's very good.
Because I was told that'll change anybody's view on abortion.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing, when it came out in the box office, is actually, that was the big storyline, was this will change your viewpoint on abortion.
And the lady
and
actually
then
worked for an abortion clinic.
But they didn't.
Yeah, Planned Parenthood.
They got
Yeah.
taken out of the box offices, that movie did. So they didn't want to advertise it, they didn't want anything, nobody to see it, so. It is a good movie though, if you've never seen it.
Well, this is the thing I hate about politics is people vote party lines.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the thing.
And in our town especially, we have a lot of people that have been Democrat for 30 years because of a teacher that told them to do it, or it's just what everyone does around here. You know, they're all Democrats. And so now they go, I'm a Democrat. Right? It's like, okay, but do you believe what they're thinking? Well, no, you can't say that to me. I'm just a Democrat. I'm not like these new Democrats. You know, I'm an old Democrat. It's like, okay, but you know, I don't know what the answer is. I don't like getting into politics at
Yeah.
all. But you're exactly right. We need to start, as Christians, we have to start standing up, because what's happening is people are getting put in these positions that are trying to destroy the family network, right? They're trying to destroy families. They're trying to make it hard on churches. They're trying to destroy really the fabric that has kept America strong and made us a great nation, which is we're a nation that's under God.
Mm-hmm.
Remove God from that nation, and we know from history that
It'll
it'll be destroyed.
And I'm going to leave this. I just want to say one more thing. What is discouraging for me to see is people are more likely to tell someone that they're a Republican or a Democrat than say, "Hey, I'm a Christian." That's the thing that blows my mind. There's all these people that I know, and they say they're a Christian, and the first thing they're posting on Facebook is something political. And I'm like, what are you doing? You don't even do that with your faith.
Yeah. Well, that's
It's
the
just
thing.
mind-boggling.
Your Facebook as a Christian, your Facebook should represent God.
And whether you think Facebook is an accurate representation of you or not, that's what people see Facebook
Yeah.
as. People look at your
Well,
Facebook.
but I'll say,
and
but I'll go further and say that I think social media is revealing the hearts of a lot of people,
Yeah, I
Yes,
think so.
I agree with that.
right? And so what we're seeing is people's real hearts. We're seeing
Right.
their feelings, and guess what their feelings are? Their feelings are politics. Their feelings are
Right.
the world. Their feelings are complaining. Their feelings are wanting to talk about people. Their feelings are wanting to make destroy somebody's life, because that's all we see on social media. This person did me wrong. Can you believe that this restaurant wouldn't let me come in there without a mask? Insert issue that you have with society. That's all people are talking
Yeah.
about. And then you get people that comment on there and they disagree with you, and then you're going back and forth, yelling at one another, and it's just,
Sickening.
it is sickening.
I think God's looking down.
He has to be upset with us.
It's just,
He has to be upset with us. And he has to be upset with the church, because the church is in the background.
Yep.
We're just background noise, it seems like. And when we should really be on the forefront. And here's the thing that really breaks my heart even more, is churches we see this with our church, but churches are literally looking at us in disgust because we are bringing people to the Lord.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
It doesn't.
And then we got other churches that are watching us from afar, and they're copying everything we're doing, right? Without doing the actual leadership stuff. They're copying the stuff that they see on social media that we're doing. They'll take it, they'll copy it, they act like it's it just breaks my heart. They're taking our ideas, they're not doing it the right way. They won't call us and ask us how we're doing it, because we'll tell people how we're doing it.
All day long.
But they won't ask us because they're too prideful, and then it's backfiring on them, and they have to explain to their people why they're doing something stupid that doesn't make any sense. It's copying off another church that's being successful. I mean, the whole process stinks. And we have to do better as churches. We have to do better as Christians. And it's a sad state to be living in. But I'm going to tell you what, we're going to continue to have church. Right? Because that's where the hope is. That's where people are going to get uplifted. That's where people are going to hear a good gospel message. Because I'm going to tell you this. I don't want to teach anybody anything. Right? This is not the time to be teaching people theology or teaching people, I don't know why we're doing this. Most churches, if you go on Sunday, guess what? They're going to be going through a book of the Bible where they're going to teach you the Hebrew words for things. And they've been going through this book, so if you just are a visitor this week, you're going to be behind because you missed the first half of the book. Am I right?
No, it's true.
We have to start preaching the gospel every single Sunday. Preach the gospel. That's all that people need to hear right now is the gospel. They should be learning and dissecting the Bible on their own, at their own time, at their own pace. We need to be preaching the gospel.
And there's a reason churches have Sunday school and Wednesday nights
Yep.
and all that stuff.
It's for those
Allow
times,
those times to be the teaching. But when you have 100 and something people come to your church and they're wanting to hear the message, what?
We gotta hold that thought. We gotta take a quick break.
Okay.
Sit tight.
All right, we're back with our second half of our Preaching on Podcast, episode 21. Wow, we're getting up there in our numbers. We're almost at triple digits.
Yeah.
Well, we still got about 76 to go.
Wow.
Tell me
great
that's
math.
80,
Great
89.
math.
That's not right. I was thinking 25. I was thinking we were at
72?
25. I thought I was thinking we were at 20. Hold on. I was thinking
What
we were
number
at.
are we on?
I was thinking we were at 20, 26, 24, which would have meant we had 76 to go.
So we have 79 left.
So we have 79 to
Wow, I
go
got it before you.
after this one. By the time you
Brittany,
hear this,
you're the
it'll
one
be
that
78.
said, you're the one that said, oh, good math, Andrew.
Oh, yeah, I thought he was right.
She just support. That's a good future wife right there.
I
Support
apologize.
me in
Listen.
anything that I do.
Amen.
I apologize for
Thanks.
having to cut Brittany off there towards the end of that last first half.
It's okay.
We have to do this in 30-minute segments for commercial break purposes.
Even though we don't have commercials.
It's not our commercials. We don't get paid for them.
Yeah.
But I think it was a good discussion. I would like to continue because we're so worried. It seems like in our I don't know where this came from. I really don't. I think we've discussed it before, but I don't know where it came from. Where we have to start teaching people. We're in a teaching mode where we're just teaching people pointless things, right?
Yeah.
And I say pointless things. I don't want to offend people.
It
or
doesn't
upset
take
people,
away
but-
the value of whatever it is.
Right.
but
I heard a pastor, I think it was Dr. Steve Gaines, talk about how he preaches, and he says he does it in this 3 ways, right? Explain, illustrate, apply, right? He explains the verse, illustrates it, and then helps you apply it to your life. And I think that's a great way to do it. But we have to start getting to a point where if the gospel isn't part of the sermon, and if there's not a place in that at the end of the sermon where people can respond to that gospel message, we're missing the point of what we're doing because we're running out of time.
You just wasted people's time. That's
Yeah,
the point.
really, and there's a place to be taught, and there's a place, there's time for everything.
Like
It's
Brittany
in the
said,
Bible.
there's a Sunday night and a Wednesday for that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? So.
Well, I seriously, this
But
past
on the
week-
other end of it, half these guys are saying, we have no visitors.
I know, but
They're the same people that have been coming here for 30 years. They know the Bible. So I'm going to teach them something they don't know. I guess. I don't know.
It has to be the mindset, but I don't
Right?
think it's
well,
very
even
good.
that, I literally watched a sermon this past Sunday on Facebook, and it was about worship. The sermon was about worship and how worship should be. And
You
then
okay over there?
for the stupid what's it called?
Invitation?
Invitation.
It's not
Sorry,
stupid.
it's not stupid. I didn't mean that. I just couldn't think of it. Sorry,
She was
guys.
frustrated
Sorry
with
for our
herself.
listeners. Yeah, this is just how I am. But for the invitation, they're just staring at him like, well, we just learned about worship and how you don't want to get a ticket to the Rolling Stones and all this stuff. And if you're doing that, then that's not worship. I mean, what? 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 Who just does that?
I know. Well, a lot of pastors aren't doing invitations anymore.
Really?
Well, I think it's because of what you just said.
I mean, some pastors literally will sit there and go, here's my deacons on the other end, go see them if you need to talk to
Yep.
somebody.
Yep.
Or a lot of them they're just ending their services, right? They're just ending them. They're not having a time of
In prayer,
invitation.
yeah, there's an
They're ending it in
prayer.
prayer. If you need to talk to somebody, email us or something like that.
I saw a church do that this week.
You have some churches that are, a lot of churches are not doing an invitation due to COVID.
Oh, yeah, I guess I did see that.
I put on a mask and I stand up in front. We have to have a time for people to respond to the message. Because if they're not responding to the message, then the message is pointless, right?
But you're preaching to them to repent and do
Yes.
X, Y, Z.
Yep.
Apply this to your life, and then what if they're like, I want to do that, and then later in the service comes and they don't have a chance to do it? Then what?
Or they leave and they say, I wish I had to do it. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know what the purpose was. I wish somebody had prayed for me, but because he's so nervous about COVID, I'm not going to go up to him and ask him. We have to get past this COVID and understand that these people need this. They need to hear the message of Jesus Christ and how he can forgive their souls, how we need to be repenting of our sins. They need to hear this message.
That little saying that people say quite often that you kind of just like blow by now, but y'all need Jesus thing, that's like legit. People need that. That's what they need right now. Y'all need
And
Jesus.
here's the thing. You should never, as a pastor, you should never be tired of presenting the gospel and doing an invitation, right? Because that's what we're called to do. Also, we have to give people that opportunity. This Sunday at our church, we did our invitation time because I used to have a pastor that used to actually tell me very, very clear he could not stand when people did a long invitation. He thought it was stupid. But this Sunday we did a couple verses. Well, in the beginning we did a couple verses. I just felt like nobody was responding at the time. And I know people are hurting. I know people because I know my community, right? I know people are hurting. I know people are struggling. And so we kept going, right? We kept going with the invitation. We kept going with the invitation, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, somebody comes up. But if we would have stopped after the 2-3 verses that we normally do, then nobody would have came forward. But somebody came up, joined the church, right? Did a couple more verses, somebody else came up, joined the church. Did a couple more verses, somebody shared a testimony. Did a couple more. I actually did a prayer asking God to soften somebody's heart so that they could come up, and we do another verse, somebody else comes up. If we would have stopped it at the 2-3 verses that we normally would, we would have had 3 new members and somebody that had to confess a big, stuff in his life. We wouldn't have been at that point. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, and I think we ended up almost doing 4. We almost went to the song.
16 verses
We
is
almost went to the
what
song 4
our
times.
organ player said.
She said
We did
16 verses. Wow, that's 4 verse songs. So
4 verse song.
Okay, well, but anyway,
With stops in between.
Stops in between. We didn't, but our mindset through that was not like, man, this is awful. Like this is taking forever. This is, I want to get over. I want to be done. Whatever. Like I was ready to sit there. I told the piano player when we were done. I said I was ready to sit there and play till noon if you wanted to.
And there are people that didn't come forward that were just moved.
But people were praying at their seat.
Moved
People
by
were
it,
just spending time in worship. I mean,
it's not like we're going to do 16 verses every invitation because
No.
that's annoying. But it was at the time. It just was what was needed. But you have to be aware of those people. Here's the thing, because I've been hearing this a lot lately. Because a lot of people cannot explain the growth that we are seeing in our church, or anything. All the things that we're doing so many great things. I think as a church.
Oh, yeah.
Even this podcast, I think this podcast is a great thing. It's people are responding to our podcast, but because some people, and it's Christians, it's only Christians, because some of these Christians can't wrap their head around it, they just automatically say, well, it's God doing it, and they're right to an extent, right? God has given us the ability to talk. God has given us the message. He's given us the vision. He's given us the creativity. But at the same time, God's also called us to
do it.
To do it. And if we choose not to do it, it wouldn't be done.
Right.
Does this make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Bishop T.D. Jakes is the only guy I've ever heard say this, but it's really stuck with me. God's never made a table, right? Ever. He's made a table out of a rock or something.
You ever just walked out in the wilderness and saw tables in there?
But what does God do? He makes a tree, right? He gives us the tools. He gives us the knowledge, the wisdom, the call, the creativity, the ability. And so, but it still takes somebody to physically carve out that tree and make a table. And the same is true with church. God has blessed this church with so much, right? He's blessed us with visitors. He's blessed us with hearts that are softened and ready to hear God's word. But it also took a couple of young people saying, we know how church shouldn't be ran. We know how church should be run, and we're going to push forward despite all of the negativity and the fighting and the politics involved. We're going to do it the way that God has called us to do it. And it wasn't an easy thing, right? But we did it.
Right.
But it took us to tear down the birthday castle thing that you put your birthday money in. It took us to remove some worship leaders. It took us to, you know what I'm saying? Like, if we didn't do those things, take out birthday, take out the deacons thing where they would come up and bore kids up in front. If we didn't do those physical things, right?
God wouldn't have blessed it.
Right, God wouldn't have blessed it. He's blessing it because we're doing the work that He's
Right.
called us to do. And I think sometimes because people can't explain it, or they don't want to explain it that way, that they automatically just say, it's, you know, God, and God did do all this. I mean, He deserves all the credit in the world.
We give Him the credit through the things we do.
Yeah, He gets the glory, the credit, but also there are certain things that we have done very strategically. You know, God has given us that ability, that knowledge, but there's things that we've had to physically do, strategically, physically, in order to accomplish those things. Am I wrong on this?
No, I think you're right.
It's hard to say it because I don't want to sound like we're bragging or boasting or doing those things.
I was getting ready to ask you
Because
that.
that's where people go.
I was going to
That's
ask you
where
that.
people go.
How do we deal with that response of you're prideful, you're
I think for us,
So
we just
like-
know. We already know.
Well, that's
But we know the reality.
Right.
We know where our heart's intentions are.
Right.
But at the same time, there are leadership. There's so many leadership techniques that we're using, right? Marketing techniques, things that I went to school for business management. There's things that I picked up in business management classes that I'm able to apply to church. If God didn't take me to business school, right, for a little bit of time, I wouldn't have known how to do that here, right?
Right.
I wouldn't know the importance of using social media. But guess what? We're using social media every single day. There's not a day that goes by where there's not something on social media.
posted, shared.
And I'm not talking about just sharing a cool little graphic every day with a little cute little verse. No, I'm talking about physically something that can grow people, that can invite people, that make sure that, I want people to really get something every single day. And that's what we're doing at Trinity. We do it all the time.
Well,
right?
and not only that, I think the difference between what we do here at Trinity is that we realize that ministry isn't just here at the church. Our ministry is throughout our everyday lives, and I think that's what sets us apart is we don't just say it here. We don't just teach someone here or tell them something or teach a lesson here or give a sermon on Sunday morning and then not apply it to our own life.
Also,
And I think people realize that.
we are also not trying to micromanage everything. We're also not trying to do it all ourselves,
Yeah.
right? Our outreach team is a fully functioning
Yeah.
team that goes out on their own and impacts
Well,
the
usually
community.
the things that I see from the outreach team, I had no idea they were going to do. I
Exactly.
just see
And
it.
it's awesome.
But to
And
me, that's more
Because
encouraging.
we've
Yeah,
put
exactly.
people in place where they can thrive.
Right.
And it's not even just our outreach team. you insert whatever. This is
Name it,
what
you
we're
name it.
constantly doing. Right? Our youth is fully functioning. I don't have to check on you guys every day. I don't have to say, I need a curriculum submitted or what are you teaching? I don't have to do that because I know that I trust you guys. Y'all are gifted. And because of that, God blesses it. And I can do that all over the place. Our kids ministry, which we just
We're getting ready to
restarted
do
to do this.
kids ministry.
Yeah, same thing's going to happen. Right? We're getting ready to we've put people in place so that the kids ministry can now, flourish.
Yeah. And I think you have to do that. Kind of go back to people are called to do
Different things.
way different things.
Yeah.
So when you find those people, you find what people are
And
called to do.
I want every ounce of our church to be called people.
Yeah.
Right, from the greeters at the door, to the counters, to the musicians, to the worship leader, to the preacher. Everybody should be called to that position. I don't want people just being there because,
They feel like they or nobody else
wants to do
Yeah.
it, so I got to do it. I want people to be called into these
I think that's the
positions.
issue that a lot of churches do have, though, because they feel like people come up and they're volunteering their time, but they're not necessarily called. And I think that's one thing we do well. Hey, you may not be called for this position of the church, but somebody else is, and you're not allowing them to bless us with,
Yeah.
their
And
gift.
then a lot of people come in and they say, we want to be involved in a church that's
Yeah.
involved. And so we don't just sit there and go,
There's
cool,
this.
let's jump onto this.
Yeah.
We literally, we're in this process right now with a lady. I'm waiting right now to see what her gifts are.
Yeah.
Right. Once she sits there and goes, well, you know what, this is like the gift, and she can prove it, and we can see the fruit of that gift. Man, she can take over whatever she wants. But we aren't just going to rush into a position that you don't like. And a lot of our teams are not set in stone. Some of our committees are, but our teams that we're creating, they're not set in stone. So you can leave and come back if you want.
Whatever you
So
want, yeah.
I think that you have to give that little bit of a freedom for people to choose that, because they may not like it, or they may not get along with people in it.
Or they might,
they may not be called to.
yeah, they know, yeah.
So but the way committees work in a lot of churches is you're stuck there in that position, but you're not called for a year or 3. Some people go 3. You have to go 3 years, depending on how big the church is. So, but those are things that we're physically doing, right?
Yeah.
That churches that are in the same boat as us aren't doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's if you're going to sit there and say, God has, built the. It's hard to say. I don't know how to say it without. God gets all the credit. But if you're going to sit there and say, God did the podcast today, right? You have to also say God is not blessing churches that are doing the same thing that we're doing, just in a different
Same
way.
thing.
Without the leadership, right?
Yeah.
You have to also say God is destroying your church. Now, I would think that God would want churches blessed, right?
Yeah.
I think God would want
But he
people
wants
to
you
hear
to
the
go out
message.
and do it.
But he wants you to do it.
Yeah, he
And
wants you to do it.
But that's my point. We're physically doing the things that God has called us to do as a church.
Yeah.
There's other churches that are not doing what God has called them to do. They're trying to run the church the American way or the way that's always been done, and God's not blessing it
Because they're not doing it.
because they're not doing it. And
Yeah.
so,
And then they sit there with their hands on their head. Why,
Their hands
why is this
crossed, or sitting on
happening?
their hands
Yeah.
and wondering why there's nobody walking in their church.
God knows the hearts of people, and He knows the intentions of people. And I think that's one of the most important reasons why we're in the position that we're in, because, other people, the world can sit there and say we're boasting or bragging, but we know that our heart's in the right spot, and that we're going to follow God's
Right.
call.
And who cares what the world thinks? Because
Yes.
the Bible even tells us that, right?
And He's
Don't worry about
blessed
what the world
us
says.
because we're seeing numbers that are pre-COVID
Yes.
numbers.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
And
not
I don't
even,
see other churches
some
doing
of our
that.
members aren't even here.
I was
Most
just
of
talking to a guy this
Yeah.
morning, and I was telling him that. I said, we're hitting what pre-COVID numbers on average now.
Yeah.
We're actually averaging pre-COVID numbers
Yeah.
again. So it's really good.
Our numbers
even
are
more,
better.
even more, I think. But I was telling him, I said, and it's very encouraging because we're even seeing like maybe 12, 2 dozen, or more people who would usually be at church and still haven't came back or whatever. So the point is, we're seeing an increase in numbers, but it's not with our members again.
It's with visitors.
Yeah.
Now that
So-
thing is the biggest. Again, to emphasize Brittany's point. People are looking for answers.
Yep.
People need to hear hope and hear a gospel message, and so now more than ever, we should be preaching. I know this. I have first-time visitors every single Sunday. Every single Sunday, first-time visitors. I was looking through some of our Connect cards that we have that visitors fill out, and one of them was like, what was it? Were you a member of another church? And somebody put on there, never been to church. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are people that have never been to church. For me, they've never heard the gospel. And so I'm preaching to that person, right? I'm preaching to that first-time person because guess what? My deacons know the gospel. Most of my congregation knows the gospel. That first-time visitor does not know the gospel. So I'm preaching that gospel to them. And the great thing about it is that when I preach what God has laid on my heart, everybody can get something out of it.
Yeah, the deacon who's been there for 20 years, the
Well,
first
that's the thing about the gospel anyway, is we know how powerful it is. So I think like people who have heard the gospel message and are saved, they see how amazing it is. So why wouldn't they want people to hear it? I don't think your members are going to be mad that you preach the gospel every single Sunday. That's what you should be doing. And if you're not, then you need to know what you're
Reevaluate.
doing.
And not only is our church not only is our church having Sunday school, which most aren't. Not only are we having normal service, which most aren't.
Sunday morning and Saturday night.
Not only are we having Sunday night and Wednesday nights, which most aren't. Youth, which most aren't. Even though we're doing all that, we're also going door to door.
Yeah.
Our team's going door to door, knocking on door to door. We just hit 4 streets last week. I guess if the weather's good, they're going to hit another group this
I think
week.
it's supposed to be nice this upcoming
My
week.
thing is I don't understand where that concept has been lost, because you look back at old churches and that's what they did.
Yeah.
Was they didn't wait at their church for people to come to them. They actually went out and they found
That was
people.
because it was really Billy Graham. I mean, you got to give Billy Graham a shout out.
Yeah.
Billy Graham brought people back to church, right? Through his radio stuff, through his television programming. And he pushed the local church, go back to your church. And so churches for a good 20 years were able to sit there and just have people come to them. And then especially with 9/11, people came back to the church because they were looking for answers. They thought the world was ending in 2001, thought the world was ending. People came back to the church, and we literally thought it was the teaching style that we were doing, and
Praise
it
and
was the
worship.
praise and worship that we were doing.
Yeah.
And so we started pushing for those things when in reality, it was not that. People were looking for answers. And the result of us teaching and the praise and this new cool music that's out of this world, the result of it is people left the church again, right? People left in even bigger numbers because you lost a lot of your members. Because they're like, this is not church.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
I said something earlier in one of our podcasts.
Episode
that-
16, I believe.
Oh, thanks. That we can do nothing to make the gospel more interesting. And when you try to do that, I think people actually heard it. They heard the message that you're trying to portray. And that's what people saw when they were coming to church during that time. Like, oh, well, it's about the person. It's about being prideful. It's about all that stuff. And I just want people to realize that the gospel does not need you. The gospel doesn't need, well, it needs us to go out and share it, but we don't need to make it more interesting. It's already the greatest thing in the world. Sorry.
But I do enjoy telling funny stories.
No, which, yes, I don't mean it like that, but you know what I mean? Like applying, putting application, that's
agree, I
perfect.
agree.
You do that
The gospel
fantastic.
the gospel-
Sometimes I wonder.
But I always pray this before a sermon, right? Remove me from this pulpit.
Yeah.
Right? Because I want God's word to speak through me. I want people to get impacted by that. Go ahead, Andrew.
I was gonna say, sometimes I wonder when I watch, like I always get on a kick where I just watch like sermon, or whatever. But sometimes I'm
Great
like,
thing to do, man.
sometimes I'm like, sometimes,
It's
what
fake.
do you like? Well, I know in the Bible, like what we were just talking about today, I'll just say, the Great Commission says what? Go therefore and make disciples, right?
all nations, baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost.
So if you're preaching the Bible, how do you miss that part? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're gonna preach something on Sunday, how do you miss that part? How do you miss the go and make disciples, go and tell people about Jesus? How do you miss it?
Because but they don't. They this is what everyone does. They pick and choose what they want to hear from that, right? So they say, "Go therefore." They skip that. They don't like to go, right? Make disciples. They'll go. All right, we'll make disciples. Here's how I make disciples. I'm going to teach it to them. I'm going to teach it to them. I'm not going to do it on Sunday night and Wednesday night because I don't have big numbers that night. My big numbers are on Sunday morning. So I'm going to teach them on Sunday mornings. So I'm going to make disciples. But that's not it. Like the very next thing is, of all nations, but the very next thing is, baptize them.
Yeah.
Well, how are you going to baptize them if you're just talking to your disciples, right?
You're teaching them about.
You're just
who knows
teaching
what.
your disciples, right?
Yeah.
You got to go, make disciples. Your church should be making disciples, right? Because that's a reoccurring thing. It should be disciples making disciples, making disciples, making
Well, that
disciples.
verse isn't directed towards church leadership or pastors or
It's everybody.
It's directed to everybody. You know?
Baptize them, teach them everything that He's commanded us, right? And guess what? If we do those things, all of it, lo, I'm with you always. So we have to understand. I don't know. We just like to pick and choose what we hear from Him.
That's something that always irks me when I'm listening to
But I
sermons.
also think I think there's a lot of fakery in that. There's a lot of fake where I'm just, I like the title, I'm going to preach in a way that, will get me a book deal or will get me on television. Merch, whatever, merchandise. I'm going to, I'm gonna have a TV upstairs, so it looks like I'm well-knowing. I got my doctorate degree, so I want people to see that. That's the mindset of it, and it takes away a lot of the gospel from it. It really breaks my heart. And so we had our association meeting on Saturday. There's about 30 churches in our association from around this area, and I preached at the association, which.
Good sermon.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you. Nobody said anything from the actual association. I'm a little nervous. But I preached about staying in your lane because I think people are so worried about appeasing other people or appeasing other churches or looking like other churches where, God has called Trinity to be Trinity and to do it as much as we can, to impact as many people as we can, to help other churches when we can. That's what He's called us to do. I'm not called to be a mega church. We're in Falmouth. know?
Yeah.
But we're called to impact the people that we've been blessed with. And I'm telling you, even today we called a bunch of our older members that we haven't seen in a while. And it wasn't, you know, we called them not so that they could come back to church, right? Just to call them and check them.
Yeah.
But we have lost that basicness of it. We've lost the basic of just,
Humanness.
yeah, the humanness, human.
I'll say it for you. Human.
Yeah, we've lost the humanness of it.
Humanness. Yeah.
Because we have, right? Because we think it's all about programs, events. It's about, you know, this, that, and the other. We're just.
We forgot how to be personal with people.
That's all.
And build relationships with people.
That's all it is. That's all it is. That's all it is. Church is supposed to be a relationship builder, an encouraging place, a place where we can give God the praise and honor that He deserves. We can preach the gospel. We can baptize people. And then we can send people out of it. Right? It's supposed to be a revolving door. Not in a sense where it's supposed to be a revolving door in the sense that we are going in, hearing a message, going out and preaching that same message out in the world.
It's a good illustration.
Thanks. I'm going to use it.
Revolving door. Those things scare me.
I hate them.
I've seen one of my favorite shows a couple years ago. Used to have a walk. Hey, I almost said the name of it. Had a revolving door in it, and I won't tell you the theme of the movie, but something really bad happened in it, and it kind of frightened me.
Heads chopped off.
No, it was a zombie movie. That gives you a heads up. It was a show, not a movie.
Why would you watch that? That's my
Let
thing.
me
I
tell-
hate zombies.
Let me tell you what I hate. Can I tell you things I hate while I got this next 5 minutes?
Oh yeah, sure.
Here,
Have the
dedicate
last
this to
5
you.
minutes.
You can have the last 5 minutes. Go ahead.
I want y'all to join me with this, but listen. This virus is the most sophisticated virus I've ever seen. Although the CDC just last week said this is a very simple virus and we can use simple tactics to defeat the virus. I think it's a very complicated virus. Do you
Just
know
wear a
why?
mask.
Huh?
Just wear a mask.
Yeah, just wear a mask unless you're in prison. Right? If you're in prison, the mask don't work and you got to release the inmates.
Yeah.
Right? Walmart bathrooms are okay to use, but their dressing rooms
Yep.
are closed.
I've also heard that the virus does not attack after 10 o'clock.
Exactly. Yes. 10 o'clock, you can't go to a bar because then the virus isn't in the bar until 10. It is in the bar after 10. You can go out to eat with your family. Your family's not allowed to go to your doctor's appointment with you, right? So that's a little too different. You can even go out to eat with your friends,
Yep.
but your family can't go to a doctor appointment with you. You have to wear a mask while walking into a restaurant, but you're allowed to take it off as soon as you get seated for some reason. Am I wrong on this?
No, this is true.
You can have a visitor at the hospital, but your husband can't go to your ultrasound appointment. You must put your money in a cup at the drive-thru, but the cashier then also touches the same money as well as your bag of food and then hands it back to you with the same gloves that they've been wearing all day.
I did that yesterday. It was very disgusting. They handed me a cup, and it was dirty. I guess it was fucking retarded.
It doesn't make any sense. We had a local doctor. We need to have a local doctor segment on here to talk about them.
Good. We can have him phone in. We could.
I don't want to talk to him. He talked about the ventilation problems. This is what this COVID is really has something to do with the ventilation. If it's not good ventilation, it just spreads like crazy. I can see that, okay? But then he started talking about the super spreader events in our local town.
Oh my goodness.
Slaughterhouses, we don't have any slaughterhouses. Fitness areas, we don't have very many fitness areas. Churches, we have a lot of churches. So he thinks that's a super spreader event. We've not had one case from a church, though, in our local area, so I don't know where he's getting that at. But that's where we're at, man, the super spreader events. But then somebody commented on his comment and said, but I'm so nervous because my son is getting ready to go on an airplane. He shares a Bloomberg article that says planes are one of the safer places to not catch the virus. Planes.
You mean that tight little capsule up in the
A
air?
little capsule with zero ventilation because you're up in the air with
30,000
pressure.
feet in the air?
Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, it could be true. I don't know. But it's just ironic.
Don't get me started.
You got thousands of protesters screaming at each other with they're in their faces screaming at each other.
Spitting and screaming and
Spitting
yelling.
and screaming, and yet not one protester has come down with the virus.
No, it's amazing, isn't it?
It's amazing. Well, this weekend there was rioting, looting in Chicago. Nothing. I don't understand this virus. It is the most sophisticated virus in the entire world. And we have been exposed to it since May. Earlier, actually March. We've been exposed to it since March. We haven't stopped.
Yeah.
So It's amazing how much we've spread it around, I guess, the world.
Can I make a suggestion?
We're the super spreaders.
I think if you're listening out there and you have a church, I think you should do the same thing as
Grace Community.
as
John MacArthur,
John
baby.
I think we should introduce our churches as
Grace Community
Hi,
Church.
welcome to Grace Community Church. Welcome to our peaceful protest. How about that? It's a good place to end, isn't it?
Very good place. Open up your churches!
Just gave somebody a heart attack.
They needed a heart attack. Open up your churches. Get Sunday school back in there. Night services, youth, kids. It's time to have church. Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
This is a preaching young. I said I'm preaching young. I said I'm preaching young. We're gonna preach. 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 We're gonna preach in young. We're gonna preach when there's a virus. We're gonna preach when there's not. We're gonna preach when there's a flu. We're gonna preach when there is not. Because this is a preaching young.
We're out. Hey guys, what's up? We thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you have any questions, you can email us at preachingyoung, no caps, no spaces, @gmail.com. Hope to see you next time.